My name is Elena Vasquez. Growing up in a bustling suburb of Chicago, I was the middle child in a family where expectations were as high as the skyscrapers downtown. My father, Antonio Vasquez, was a self-made man, a real estate developer who clawed his way up from nothing. He prided himself on his success, and he expected the same from us kids. My older brother, Marco, followed in his footsteps, landing a cushy job in finance right out of college. My younger sister, Sophia, was the golden child, beautiful, charming, and on track to marry into even more money. Me, I was the outlier. After high school, I didn't go to university like they did. Instead, I took a job as a security guard at a high-end corporate building in the Loop. It paid the bills, and honestly, I liked the quiet power of it, watching, observing, being the unseen shield between order and chaos. Dad, never let me forget how much of a disappointment I was. Elena's got a real job, he'd say with that mocking lilt. But his eyes told the truth. It wasn't good enough. Not for the Vasquez name. Family dinners were a minefield of subtle digs. Marco closed another deal today. Or Sophia's interning at that law firm. Imagine that. I'd nod, force a smile, and retreat to my tiny apartment, where the only judgment came from my cat, Luna. But the real knife twist came at Sophia's wedding last summer. It was a lavish affair at a lakeside venue. All crystal chandeliers and imported flowers. Sophia was marrying Liam Hartley, heir to a shipping empire. The guest list read like a who's who of Chicago's elite. Politicians, CEOs, and even a few minor celebrities. I was there in my off-the-rack dress, feeling like an intruder among the designer gowns. Dad was in his element, schmoozing with everyone, his booming laugh echoing across the ballroom. I hung back, sipping champagne, trying to blend in. That's when I overheard him. He was chatting with a group of Liam's uncles, all ruddy-faced men in tailored suits. "Ah, my daughters," he said, gesturing vaguely towards Sophia on the dance floor and then, unfortunately, spotting me. "Sophia's the bride, of course. And Elena over there? She's just a security guard. Keeps the riffraff out of office buildings." They chuckled politely, but I felt the heat rush to my face. Just a security guard. As if my job was a punchline. As if I was nothing more than a uniformed doorman in his grand narrative. I excused myself to the bathroom, locking the stall door and letting the tears come silently. It wasn't the first time he diminished me, but in front of strangers? At my sister's wedding? That stung deeper than usual. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, dark hair pulled into a practical bun, makeup barely holding up, and made a vow. No more. I wasn't going to fade into the background. I'd show them all, that just a security guard could be something extraordinary. Revenge wouldn't come from confrontation. It would come from rising so high that they'd have no choice but to look up. Back at work the next week, I threw myself into my routine with new purpose. My building housed Apex Innovations, a tech firm specializing in cutting-edge AI and cybersecurity. As a night shift guard, I had access to areas most employees never saw. The server rooms, the executive suites, the forgotten archives in the basement. I'd always been curious, tinkering with computers in my free time, teaching myself coding from online tutorials. One evening, while patrolling the lower levels, I noticed something off. A door to the data center was ajar, which it never was. I slipped inside, my flashlight cutting through the hum of servers. There, huddled over a terminal, was a man I didn't recognize. He wasn't an employee. His badge was a forgery. I could spot those from a mile away. Heart pounding, I ducked behind a rack of equipment. He was downloading files, muttering to himself in what sounded like Russian. I pulled out my phone, silently recording. This wasn't just a break-in. This was corporate espionage. Apex was working on a revolutionary encryption algorithm that could change global data security. If this guy got away with it, millions could be at risk. Bank accounts, government secrets, everything. I could have called the police right then, but something held me back. I wanted proof, something ironclad. Creeping closer, I saw the screen. Files labeled Project Sentinel. I knew from overheard conversations that it was their crown jewel. He finished, ejecting a drive and slipping it into his pocket. As he turned to leave, our eyes met. Panic flashed across his face, and he lunged. I dodged, years of self-defense training kicking in. We grappled, my radio clattering to the floor. I managed to pin him long enough to hit the emergency button. Alarms blared, and within minutes, building security swarmed in. But it was me who had the video, me who had spotted the anomaly. The police arrived, arresting him on the spot. Turns out, he was part of an international hacking ring tied to foreign interests. The next day, Apex's CEO, Dr. Miriam Hale, called me into her office. "Elena, you didn't just stop a thief. You prevented a catastrophe," she said, her eyes wide with gratitude. They offered me a promotion on the spot to head of internal security with a team under me and access to their training programs. But that was just the beginning. Word spread fast. Local news picked up the story: Hero security guard foils major cyber heist. My face was plastered on Channel 5, interviewing me about how a routine patrol turned into a high-stakes takedown. Dad called that evening, his voice a mix of confusion and forced pride. "Elena, Mija, I saw you on the news. That was something. You okay?" I could hear the television in the background, the anchor repeating my name. Elena Vasquez, the security guard who single-handedly stopped a sophisticated cyber intrusion. I kept my response cool. "Yeah, Dad. Just doing my job." He chuckled awkwardly. "Well, good thing you were there. Imagine if it had been someone else. Someone else. As if any random guard would have noticed the forged badge or recorded the evidence." I let it slide. This was only the beginning. Within weeks, Apex fast-tracked me into their elite cybersecurity division. Dr. Hale personally mentored me, seeing potential I'd only ever dreamed of. I devoured certifications: CompTIA Security Plus, Certified Ethical Hacker, CISSP, in record time. My nights became a blur of code reviews, threat simulations, and late-night coffee. The company sent me to conferences, where I networked with the best minds in the field. People started recognizing me not as just a security guard, but as the woman who saved Project Sentinel. Offers rolled in from bigger firms, but I stayed loyal to Apex for now. Then came the real breakthrough. During a routine audit of the recovered data from the espionage attempt, I discovered something buried deep in the code. A backdoor that the intruder hadn't even touched. It was subtle, elegant, planted months earlier by someone inside. An insider threat. I reported it immediately, but quietly. Dr. Hale trusted me enough to let me lead the internal investigation. For 6 months, I worked undercover within my own company, tracing digital breadcrumbs. Late nights in the office, pretending to be the diligent new hire while piecing together IP logs, access patterns, and encrypted communications. It led to the unthinkable. The traitor was Apex's own chief technology officer, Victor Lang. He'd been selling secrets to a rival conglomerate for years, staging the foreign hack as a smokescreen to cover his tracks. The evidence I compiled was airtight: emails, offshore accounts, timed logins that matched his private jet manifests. When the FBI raided his mansion, the news exploded nationally. Whistleblower turned cybersecurity expert exposes corporate betrayal at Apex Innovations. My face was everywhere: CNN, MSNBC, even a segment on 60 Minutes. They called me the guardian of Sentinel, the former security guard who brought down one of the most powerful men in tech. Dad's next call came the day after the arrest. "Elena, turn on the TV. Your name is all over it." His voice cracked with something I hadn't heard before: awe. I was at a gala Apex threw in my honor, wearing a sleek black gown that cost more than my old annual salary. Dr. Hale had just announced my promotion to Vice President of Global Threat Intelligence. The room erupted in applause as I took the stage, cameras flashing. I smiled for the photographers, knowing the footage would be broadcast nationwide. That night, my phone buzzed incessantly. Family group chat, Marco posting links to articles, Sophia sending heart emojis, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly wanting to catch up. And Dad. He left a voicemail I played on speaker while sipping champagne with my new colleagues. "Mija, I saw the gala on the news. Vice President of the whole company. I'm so proud. I always knew you had it in you. Always knew." I nearly laughed out loud, but I didn't call back right away. Let it simmer. The sweetest moment came 2 weeks later at a family barbecue Dad insisted on hosting to celebrate Elena's achievements. The backyard was packed, extended family, old neighbors, even some of Sophia's in-laws who'd been at the wedding. Dad had printed out news articles and taped them to the fridge like a proud parent displaying kindergarten drawings. He pulled me aside early, eyes glassy. Elena, I need to say something. At Sophia's wedding, what I said about you being just a security guard, that was wrong. Stupid. I was showing off, trying to sound important to those rich idiots. You're so much more. You always were. I looked at him, really looked. The man who'd built an empire from nothing, yet couldn't see the strength in his own daughter until the world forced him to. Part of me wanted to lash out, to make him feel the years of dismissal. But revenge, I realized, wasn't about his apology. It was about this moment, standing tall while he finally looked up. I know, Dad, I said softly. And now everyone else does too. As the evening wore on, guests kept approaching me, wide-eyed. You're the one from the news, they'd say. The security guard who took down that executive. I'd smile modestly, correcting them gently, former security guard. Dad beamed each time, retelling the story louder than necessary, as if he'd been my biggest supporter all along. And in a way, that was perfect. He'd spend the rest of his life trying to rewrite the narrative, while I knew the truth. I'd risen not because of him, but in spite of him. These days, I oversee a team of 50 across 3 continents. Project Sentinel launched successfully under my watch, revolutionizing data protection worldwide. My name opens doors my father could only dream of. And whenever I visit home, Dad still has those articles on the fridge, faded now but proudly displayed. He introduces me to everyone as my daughter, the VP who saved the world from hackers. I let him have that version. After all, the best revenge isn't humiliation. It's elevation. So high that the ones who belittled you have no choice but to crane their necks and finally see you clearly.